Hello, everybody. Today's episode of Album Rant, I am once again going to talk about German hard rock heavy metal artists, the Scorpions. And there were a lot of albums I could have chosen from. This is going to be my fourth episode of Album Rant that deals with the Scorpions. And I reviewed one album from their early days, two albums from, I guess, their really commercialized period, which was the early 80s. So I thought I would return once again to their early days and talk about their fifth studio release entitled Taken by Force. And this is what you see right there in front of you. Now, you might be saying to yourself, something looks a bit off. That is not the cover art that I'm used to seeing. That's not the cover art I'm familiar with. Shouldn't it just, say Scorpions Taken by Force and have a picture of each band member? Well, I believe what you see right here, this is actually the original cover art, which was censored back when this album was first released due to it being controversial. And I mean, it looks like we have two kids playing guns in a cemetery, so I can kind of understand that. The Scorpions back then were no stranger to controversy. However, this definitely pales in comparison to the original artwork of their previous album, Virgin Killer. But before I get too far ahead of myself, I want to kind of catch everybody up to where we are. So, again, they originated in the late 60s, actually, and two of the founding members were a man by the name of Rudolf Schenker and a lead vocalist by the name of Klaus Meine, I want to say. I am sure I may be mispronouncing that. Guys, a lot of these names, a lot of these band members, again, they're German, so I'm going to have a tough time with the pronunciation. But the thing is this, I really don't care that much. So Klaus and Rudolf were two of the founding members, and they got some more people together, including Rudolph's little brother, Michael Schenker, who is most well known for his work with UFO. And they released their very first studio album in the year 1972 entitled Lonesome Crow. And this was a very different album than what the Scorpions are most synonymous with. This was not a commercialized rock album, kind of in the same realm as Van Halen. No, this was a much darker and psychedelic album. And for what it is, it was really awesome. I mean, it's definitely different than what you probably got introduced to this band with, but that does not make it bad by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, a lot of people prefer this sound, which is totally understandable. But, another thing that I really respected about them back then is they were very diverse. They did not write the same song 9 times every album. Every song kind of had its own little spin on it. Every song kind of had its own identity, I guess you could say. And that was really pretty awesome. But we had I'm Going Mad. It All Depends. In Search of the Peace of Mind. Action. Inheritance. And the title track, and I think I'm missing one, but it's all right. But man, that title track was 13 minutes. Definitely not what the Scorpions are, again, well known for. This was a very progressive number, yet dark and psychedelic number, and it was awesome. However, after that, they had quite the lineup change. Only Klaus and Rudolf stayed. Michael Schenker went off to join UFO, and he debuted on their third studio release entitled Phenomenon. And the bass player and the drummer, and I forget their names, and if I knew, I would not be able to pronounce it anyways, they left also. And they were joined by some other members, some other bandmates, and they included Francis Buchholz, I think I'm saying that correctly, who would become their longtime bass player, and Ulrich John Roth on lead guitar. And their second studio release came out in 1974, and again, only Klaus and Rudolf remained from that first album, and it was entitled Fly to the Rainbow, and it was another really great, strong, very crazy and insane album, but I still loved it. We had Speedy's Coming. We had They Need a Million. We had Fly People Fly. We had This Is My Song. We had Far Away. And then we had the title track, and the title track is really considered to be one of their most well-known songs ever, and it was an absolute proggy beast of a classic, and I love that also. But there was one song I didn't mention that I probably should, and it is definitely a song that has fallen through the cracks and does not get the recognition it deserves. It is called Drifting Sun. This was one of the songs that Ulrich Roth took lead vocals on, and actually he took lead vocals occasionally during this era of the band, and it is heavy. It is hard rocking, and it is totally and completely insane. If you have not heard Drifting Sun, I know it's a deep cut, please go hear it. So anyways, they continued on into 1975, and their third studio release came out, and it was entitled In Trance. And at the time, this was definitely their most commercially successful album, and it had songs such as Dark Lady, the title track, Robot Man, Top of the Bill, what else? Sun in My Hand, that's what it's called. I'm not the best with song titles. But anyways, once again, it continued that very psychedelic yet hard rock sound that they had previously established. And again, Ulrich Roth did take lead vocals occasionally on one or two songs, and I thought it was a very interesting arrangement. So then in 1976, we come to their fourth studio release entitled Virgin Killer. And I have reviewed this one on Album Rant before, and I think it had the same lineup as In Trance, but it had some other really strong songs, such as Pictured Life, Catch Your Train, In Your Park, Backstage Queen, the title track, which was written by Roth, and man, that song was so bizarre, yet I love it. We had Hellcat, we had Polar Nights, we had Yellow Raven, which is a very haunting ballad that closed out the album, and it worked really, really well. And I think there's one other song I'm missing, but it's all right. But anyways, Virgin Killer, as I just said, was definitely met with controversy because the album cover originally featured a naked prepubescent girl, which is all kinds of illegal, at least in the United States, and I can understand why they later edited the cover art and replaced it with a picture of the band. Yeah, that was the right call. So anyways, after that, it now brings me to the subject of today's review, which is their fifth studio release entitled Taken by Force, released in 1977. And this would be the very first album that included their longtime drummer, the guy who was with them through all their mainstream success, and his name was Herman Rarebell. I might be mispronouncing that also. Again, I did my best. So essentially, this has the classic lineup, except we have Ulrich Roth instead of Matthias Jabs, and a lot of people, like I said, do prefer that. So let's see what's over here. Yes, right there, there's a picture of the band, and this would be the only album that had this lineup. We have a track list, and let's see what's in here. Yes, we have another picture of the band. It might be the same one, actually. Yes, it is. And then flip over here, and yes, we have the edited cover art right there. This is the cover art that most people associate with this album. We have the title, Taken by Force, and there's the lineup. Rudolf Schenker, Ulrich Roth, Klaus, Meine, Herman Rarebell, and Francis Buchholz. I think I said that correctly, but again, I very well could be mistaken. So coming back here, we have the track list. And we have side 1 and side 2, and let's start off right here. It starts off with Steam Rock Fever, which it starts out and it sounds almost like a drill that's being, run, and it's kind of an interesting intro, but then it picks right back up and it starts, coming in, and it's definitely led by the drums, I would say, but even the sound itself sounds like a drill that's just building up and building up and building up, and I think I might understand what they were going for, but, who knows. But anyways, again, it's a very upbeat, almost jovial number, which again, is not really the sound that were widely associated with at this time, but it's still really awesome. But again, like I said, the song just keeps building and building. But I mean, the lyrics go, we'd like to deuce tonight the king of a brand new style. They're hungry to play. We'd like to deuce tonight the new heavy steam rock style. Quite different and strange. All right, how do you feel tonight? Get up and see and cry the name of the band, Steam Rock Band, Steam Rock Band. And then, like I said, the whole thing keeps building up until it all kind of comes together in the chorus. And you feel like it's building to something, and the chorus is what it's building to. But again, the chorus is not really much to write home about, not really much to brag about or anything, but it's just steam rock fever, screaming rock believers, steam rock fever in LA, and that's basically it. So, you know, pretty straightforward rocker. It does conform to the typical verse-chorus arrangement, but, you know, good intro. I like it. However, we now come to the second track, which many consider to be the best from this album and one of the best Scorpions songs ever. Will Burn the Sky. And I have heard some people say this is the Stairway to Heaven of the Scorpions, and there may be some merit to that, so I totally understand that. But it starts out, and it's actually acoustic. It's actually acoustically driven, but it's also very haunting. I'm not sure if you would call this a ballad, but it's definitely teetering on the definition and everything. But it's also very progressive, and that's one of the reasons why people may akin this to Stairway to Heaven. But again, it starts out, like I said, the intro segment is very acoustically driven, very soft, but it's got a very dark atmosphere behind it that seems to be building up and building up. But then after that intro, it moves into a much faster segment. The band has come in by this point, and we are rocking along pretty well, but it's, again, hasn't fully exploded yet, but it is definitely building. But then we go right back again to that softer segment that sounds much like the intro, and again, that very haunting feel behind it. But then it's going to pick up again, move into the faster segment. I guess you could call this the second verse. But again, the song isn't exactly a verse-chorus arrangement. Maybe it's the second segment, I guess. But then, once again, it falls back again into a slower segment. But this one does not waste a whole lot of time. It kind of does its thing, and then the song goes full-fledged explosive. And it just starts jamming. And man, that outro, that last little segment is so explosive, and it ends on a very strong note. So yes, Will Burn the Sky. A lot of people say, once again, it's the best one from Taken by Force. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I totally understand if you feel that way. So yeah, great song. So now we come to track number 3, which is I've Got to Be Free. This one was written by Roth, and Roth only. And the thing is this. When I listen to these early records, I can really tell which of the songs were written by Roth. He had a very distinct style to him, and I think that's, again, pretty awesome. I can't really fully describe the style, but I recognize it when I hear it. So this one starts out, it's got a very swinging rhythm. It's like dunna da dunna da dunna, and it's very heavy. It's incredibly heavy, and it just keeps, again, flowing along, jamming along very well. You're burning my heart, you're burning my mind, you're spoiling my art, you're wasting my time. No taste in your actions, no taste in your line, no truth or direction, no true love of mine. You say you want to be a superstar, don't give a damn how to get that far. You say you want to ride a diamond car, but I don't like your fat cigar. Hey, 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 you don't want to see, I'm not your stepping stone. hey, I've got to be free, so leave my life alone. Oh, I love that song, okay? The rhythm is so great. What I really love about it is it never lets up. It just keeps moving and never really gives the listener a chance to breathe. But at the same time, that's what I really like about it. This is another one that has really fallen through the cracks, and it is not even going to appear on a greatest hits compilation that just focuses on this era of the band. It's that obscure, but that's not a bad thing. Again, here, I've got to be free. It's definitely an underrated gem, I'll say that. But yes, like I said, the song just keeps going and going, never lets up. And this is very indicative of the pure and total insanity that Roth was very well known for. He has a very distinct style, like I said, and his guitar playing, at least, has been compared very much to Jimi Hendrix, and I can really definitely understand that. But then we come to The Riot of Your Time. And I think this one is a little bit weaker than maybe some of the other numbers on here. It begins acoustically, but it's also fast. Okay, it's definitely soft in the beginning, but it's definitely going very, very fast, and definitely not a ballad. This is still a rocker. But again, then the band comes in, starts getting very fast and swinging, and through that, it seems to kind of alternate between that acoustic segment and that very much more hard rocking segment. And I think the contrast does work pretty well, even though I find this to be one of the weaker numbers on here. I, again, think it's another underrated track. However, we then end up at track number 5, The Sales of Quran. Now, something I didn't mention about this edition I have, this is the special edition, the remastered edition, obviously. Granted, you can probably tell by the fact that the record sleeve is not falling apart or anything. It looks new because it is new. This one actually has a bonus track on here, which I will get to in a second. But because of that, I have a feeling The Sales of Quran on this edition only was moved to side 1 to make room for the bonus track, which is on side 2. I could be wrong about that, but it seems like a logical conclusion from where I'm standing. Also, if you listen to this edition of the record, you might be a little bit confused at the very beginning of The Sales of Quran. Initially, or on pretty much all the earlier releases of this album, it just starts. It starts off that very grooving yet psychedelic guitar riff. You know that. This, however, restores a missing segment of the song. You have kind of a little dark little guitar intro right before it gets moving, and I think initially, on the initial record, that little intro was removed from the song for whatever reason, maybe time constraints. This edition restores it, and I think it does set the mood very well. But anyways, getting back on topic, yes, the song is, again, very psychedelic and very purely, totally insane, which is, the style of music that Roth usually wrote. And I think it's awesome. This one is very slow, yet the guitar riffs work so incredibly well. It's very doomy and very dark, and that is what I love about it. And just listen to some of these lyrics, they're insane. Dark night, there is no light in the realm of the black magic man. Soul's flight into the cold blight of the destroyer's magic land. Poor man whose spirits are stronger, they're the ones who will reign, but your struggles are in vain. Blind man, you're sucking your own blood, soon black magic's dying, you better start crying. Man, that is just so dark and messed up, but I love it. And that rhythm just continues for the entirety of the song, and it is an all-time classic, or at least to me it is. Now, something rather interesting. When I saw Metallica for the very first time in 2009, Kirk Hammett had a little guitar doodle he did, and he actually incorporated the Sails of Charon into it, which I was like, whoa, that's the Scorpions. I love that one. No one else around me knew what the song was, which is fine, but I was like, yeah, that's the Sails of Charon. I love that song. I'm really glad he did that. So anyways, what's my favorite from side one? Well, on this edition, it's definitely the Sails of Charon. However, like I said, I could be wrong about this. I think initially the Sails of Charon was on side 2. And if we're going by the initial edition, I would probably say I've Got to Be Free. But going by this edition, it's definitely the Sails of Charon, one of the great Scorpion songs, and definitely one of the best ones from this era. Now, the thing is this, Sails of Charon really sounds like the kind of song that Uli would take lead vocals on. He actually doesn't on this album. He doesn't sing on this one, which I found kind of interesting. Klaus actually sings it, but I mean, he's still a very strong vocalist. Probably a stronger vocalist than Roth was, but I think Roth's vocals would have suited this song very well, but Klaus does a great job also. So let's move over here. We're on side number 2. And it starts off with Your Light, which is also written by Roth. This one is much slower and bluesier. I'm not going to try to hum it. I don't think I can really pull it off, but it's definitely got a bluesy rhythm to it, which is, again, very different from some of the other stuff that's been on here. And as I said, one thing I respect about the Scorpions, at least during this time period, is they did diversify. However, they stuck to who they really were, and they did not just completely abandon their hard rock roots. Every song on here was hard rock. They just sounded different, which I am fine with. Just recently, I was accused of first complaining about a band, doing different stuff, and then later I complained about them doing the same thing all the time. That's not true. I did not say that. But anyways, getting back on subject, Your Light, like I said, is much slower and bluesier. Starts off with a very, very soft chorus. And there does come several moments on the song where it does start to pick up and gets heavier, but it keeps retreating back to that slower, bluesier segment, which again is different than some of the other stuff they've done, but I still really, really like it, okay? The song never fully explodes. Like, for example, Steam Rock Fever and We'll Burn the Sky, there came a point where the build-up just completely exploded and the song went off the rails. That never really happens here. This is definitely one of the more restrained songs on the album. But, I guess we all need a chance to cool off every now and then. But it is a weaker song. I mean, it's not, compared to the rest of this album, it's definitely one of the weaker ones. That does not mean it's bad, and I still do really enjoy it. All right, we now come to He's a Woman, She's a Man. And I have a feeling they were trying to be provocative here, and I mean, the band itself is a sexual innuendo. The name, the Scorpions, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks as to what the sting of the scorpion tail is really supposed to represent, so I won't go any further into that. This is really more of a straightforward rocker. It starts off, and it's got kind of an interesting intro. It's like, dun-dun, dun 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 dun. But then after that, it just gets very fast, and it never really fully lets up. It just keeps going and going and going. Now, the thing is this one sounds a lot more generic as opposed to other songs in this album, such as I've Gotta Be Free. I mentioned I've Gotta Be Free also never really lets up, but I think the rhythm was a little bit more well-written than He's a Woman, She's a Man. He's a Woman, She's a Man, again, just sounds like your typical by-the-books hard rock heavy metal song. That's not to say it's a bad song or anything, because it definitely isn't, okay? The sound does sound a little bit polished, at least in my opinion, but it's still very heavy. So again, we're not going pop rock or anything, very much not. The chorus does keep picking up, but it does keep the same rhythm, but then, again, the lyrics aren't much to write home about. It's just, he's a woman, She's a man, and I did the very best I could there, so please forgive me. But yeah, another great guitar solo in the middle. Goes to the chorus at the very end, so yeah, pretty much buy the books here. So now we come to track number 3 from side number 2, and this is the official album closer, at least on the original edition. It's Born to Touch Your Feelings, and this is another acoustic song. It starts out acoustically, and again, very haunting, very dark, much like Will Burn the Sky, but the nature of this song is a lot different from Will Burn the Sky. This one does kind of conform to the verse-chorus arrangement, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but again, I said this was a ballad, but it's not like Still Loving You, or Believe in Love, or Send Me an Angel, which were definitely trying to be pop ballads. Again, this is a dark, haunting, and progressive ballad, so there is a difference there, but again, the chorus does start to pick up a bit. The band does come in, all the other members do, and it does get a little bit heavy, and it's definitely trying to be powerful, and it does succeed in that department, I'll say that. But then it does kind of fall back again to the very acoustic kind of somber moments, which, again, the atmosphere is definitely there. One thing I do want to mention about Born to Touch Your Feelings is the outro lasts about 2 minutes or so. This song is over 7 minutes. It's the longest song on this album, and we can hear a bunch of female voices in the background, and I don't know what they're saying. They're definitely not speaking English, so if you know what they're saying, again, tell me in the comments, I'm sure you will. But I think it does add another layer to the song and just gives off kind of an eerie vibe, which I really love. So yeah, that is the end of the album. Oh, wait, this is the bonus track edition. So there's one more song entitled Suspender Love. And this one only lasts 3 minutes and 21 seconds, so it's not a big prog number by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not quite sure what this track was originally released on. It was on the Tokyo Tapes, which was a live album that came out after this one, but I'm not sure what the song's purpose for this album was. Was it a B-side? I could not find any record of it being a B-side to a single or anything, so it might just have been an outtake, but if it was a B-side, please let me know. But yeah, this song is incredibly sexual, and you can tell that right from the beginning. It is kind of slow at the beginning. Actually, it's pretty much slow the remainder of the song. But Klaus has got this thing where he's going, ah, throughout the entire song. So you just kind of, can fill in the blanks pretty easily what the moaning is supposed to be synonymous with. But we have, ah, you turn me on, I've been the biggest fan of yours. There's something more, so much more, baby. I can be cool, it's getting stronger every day. Well, pictures of you, I cut them out, baby. And yes, the song again is very well known, or it's very indicative of the sleazy atmosphere that the Scorpions were very well known for. And I think, for what it's worth, it is a very good addition to this special edition of the album. Again, it was not on the original release, but it is on this edition, and I think it is worth a listen. So that is going to conclude Taken by Force. What is my favorite from side 2? It's probably going to be Born to Touch Your Feelings, but I think side 1 was stronger. But overall, do I recommend this album? Absolutely. This is, again, an album that did not reach mainstream appeal, but it definitely is a must-listen to anyone who really, truly loves the Scorpions. And so that is it for this episode. Anyways, guys, next week I am going to do a more serious episode, and I guess you can probably figure out why I'm going to do a more serious episode, but I'm going to pay tribute to 2 fallen legends. But until then, have a very nice day.